Welcome to this course on how to create watercolor and pen relaxing art. So this year I really wanted to start incorporating a little bit more of watercolor artworks into my practice. So I've always created artworks just relaxing as doodles and little artworks with lines, and I thought about combining the two to create something new. I love practicing my line work in the most basic fashion way, which is pen and paper, and it's amazing what you can achieve just by trying different mediums to add that pop of color. You don't need anything fancy to do any of this work. I will link all the supplies I used to make this video, and just to give you a little bit more guidance on how to get into the mindset of creating flowing lines. So what you're gonna need: watercolor paper, no need for something fancy, just decide on the size you want. I'm using A3 here, but you can choose smaller sizes or bigger sizes. Obviously, the bigger the size, the bigger the artwork, and more time it's gonna take you to create all the lines. Then you need some normal paper. A4 is perfectly fine for practicing the lines. If you've never done any pen work with lines, then I really suggest you to try to loosen your arm and hand a little bit before you create the artwork itself. Tape. You want some really soft tape to cover the edges and create that really sharp look. 2 jars of water, one for the clean brush and the other one for a dirty brush. Watercolors. And then we need a couple of sizes of brushes, always for watercolor. You can also use ink. If you have experience in using it, that's great. It could be a great addition to your artwork and different colors. If you're new to watercolor, an alternative to brushes is using these brushes. You can actually put water in them and they make the process a little bit easier. And then for your pens, you need 2 black pens with different weights. So one for the thin lines and another one for a deeper, stronger line. Just make sure that the pen is not too hard on the paper, because you don't want to scratch the paper itself or leave a mark. It has to be really gentle on the paper, and especially on the parts where you will have watercolor. Now let's start off by adding the tape on the edges of your paper. Just be careful here and make sure that it sticks really well to the paper and that you're following the edge. Obviously you can leave as much of a gap as you want, but just make sure that you cover the edge so you're not gonna have extra marks and it's gonna be really clean and sharp. For this artwork I'm selecting some pinks and red colors. You can choose whatever colors you want. You can also use the same colors. It doesn't really matter as long as you like the colors and the composition. Don't worry too much about how much water you're gonna use or how much color you're going to use. These circles are gonna be in the background and they will bring a pop of color, but they're not necessarily done in a super perfect way. So just make sure you're following a circular movement with your brush and take time for each one of them so they are as round as possible. Or if you don't want to make them round, just go ahead and create the shapes you want. You can also have the shapes overlapping each other or more circular shapes on top of each other. So it's really up to you and on the composition you want to create. Now for your lines, take the paper and practice some lines. Here there is really no a rule on how you want to create them. They have to be obviously really smooth, so try on few pieces of paper really what you like. Here I'm showing you 2 different techniques I use. The first one on the left, it would be more similar to a piece of fabric in a way. And then the one on the right, it would be more similar to hair and braid. So just really, you can also mix the two of them. There is no specific rule on how you want to create them. You can have a lot of details, which means a lot of lines inside the main lines, or you can leave it really loose. So practice a lot. You can try different options. You can cover all the space you want on the artwork. All of this work is done to relax your hand, relax your mind, unwind, and really focusing on the process of creating the lines and the slow process on how you create the artwork. When you're creating the lines, just don't overthink it. We're not striving for perfection here. We are just embracing the process. And if you do a mistake, it's absolutely fine. You are completely in charge of the lines you're creating. So take your time and fill in the gaps. Remember that if you do a mistake, then you can always cover it with a thicker marker and it doesn't really matter. It's not going to be visible. So relax your hand and take your time in creating the lines. To add a bit more depth to your artwork, I suggest using a thicker marker then to cover some of the main lines, and so creating really a feeling of fullness for these lines. Okay, now that our circles are dry, I'm showing you here that the position of the circles doesn't really matter. You can have different circles, different sizes, different colors, just whatever makes you relaxed and makes you want to create more. When you're creating the first lines on the artwork, leave behind every bad judgment that you might going to have or negative thoughts about how that line is not perfect. It doesn't really matter. The pen in your hand is going to be able to fix all the small details, and the more you exercise your hand on creating these lines, the more you will find a specific pattern you like and what makes you really, really relaxed. So don't overthink it. If you make a mistake, as I said, just go ahead and keep working on your lines. You can add as many details as you want. You can fill the paper if you want or leave it half blank. Just remember to let your hand very loose on the paper and leave a sort of hierarchy of the lines. So you have stronger lines attracting your focus and other lines that are a bit more blending in the background. One of my favorite parts of creating these designs is that when you're going to create your artwork, the designs don't have to be perfect, and this is meant to be really an organic and layering of round shapes and soft lines. Watch this course a couple of times to see how I move throughout the design and how I move my hand around it. And then your design doesn't have to match mine, so just let your natural style come through. Once you're satisfied with the amount of lines and the thickness of the lines, then take your time and remove the tape. Go really slow because you don't want to tear it. Once you have removed the tape, you can add in the last small details and maybe your name if you want. And there you go. You have your beautiful artwork, and it's gonna be amazing also when it's framed. I hope you really enjoyed this video and you're gonna practice a lot of lines in the future. And if you do, please let me know. I'm gonna be really, really happy to see your progress. Thank you so much. Bye bye.